La Nazi di Figaro is Mozart. Mozart. The Creation Oratorio, Haydn. It's Haydn, yes. The Surprise Symphony, Haydn. It's Haydn. What a surprise. Storm and Drying is historically significant because it included the use of sudden shifts in dynamics and keys. It grew in popular expressions of the Romanticism in the 19th century. It had influence on the development of dramatic opera. Okay. One of the only pieces Mozart ever composed without a commission was composed in honor of his new wife, Constanza, which is the Mass in C minor. Correct. What was the tempo order for the classical symphony and the string quartet? Allegro, Andante, Triette Minuet, and Allegro. Well, we almost got that one. We didn't get that one, but it's okay. What is the comic opera called in Germany during the classical period and beyond? It's called Singspiel. Indicate the titles below of the operas that were not composed by Mozart, and that's The Devil in the Village. That's correct. In the early classical period, how was harmony treated? With structure, with order, with standard. By avoiding charismatic complications and harsh dissidence, bass lines are simple with straightforward dissonant harmonies. Indicate by choice one style characteristic that does not belong to mature style of Haydn and Mozart. Some Baroque forms used. The key to hearing the difference between Haydn and Mozart is in the area of, it's in the area of harmonies. Harmonies. The pieces that are considered the best exposures to Mozart's genius are his piano concertos. Okay. Indicate by choice one style characteristic that does not belong to the mature style of Haydn and Mozart. Experimentation with forms. The features in common Haydn and Mozart shared in their late pieces. The use of bigger orchestras and more charismatism and polyphonic texture and more key changes. Mozart created a sense of fun and climax to his comic operas by employing a grand finale, the ensemble finale. In the traditional period, the classical style, one important style that emerged in France was called Rococo. In music, galant style became a sophisticated name for the same style. What were the ideals of this style in music? Galant style seeks to present more than one emotion in a piece of music, but the style remains superficial in emotional expression. Galant music aims to please, delight, and entertain. Which French philosopher wrote an opera? That would be Rousseau. Who was the leader of the opera reform during the 1970s, and what was the title of his first opera showing changes? Gluck, Orpheus, and Eurydice. In the new approach to opera during the period, which becomes most important? The music is written in order to tell the story. One dramatic feature Haydn and Mozart both used for opening symphonies was a grand finale? No. Notes by unison followed by slow introduction. The formation of the classical symphony was originally based on the opera overtures of Xenophonus. What was the major development musical elements that comes to define the classical style? Order, form related to rhetoric. In galant style, as in Rameau, melodies are organized in the same manner. They are constructed as phases and periodic pauses compared to a sentence and a structure, sentence construction with a predicate and a subject. This is how they're organized in Rameau melodies and Galant style. Who composed the most famous intermezzo of the time period, and what was it called? La Serva Padrona by Pergolesi. Perhaps Haydn's most celebrated and most influential string quartets are his Op. 76 for Haydn. In the order of main sections in the Sonata Allegro are exposition, development, and recapitulation. Get that one right. What are the two important influences upon music from this time of the first Industrial Revolution? A standard style is used throughout Europe, and standardization of ensembles encourages music publishing. On what is the overall classical musical style based? It's based on scales and chords. One of the enormous contributions to opera Mozart made was writing music that depicted character, even recitatives, keeping the continuity of drama flowing using contemporary librettos. How were sections and separate themes in the exposition of the Sonata Allegro form distinguished by the listener? Cadence and rest. Okay, this was French word for what was considered chic, modern, smart, and sophisticated. Galant. Which opera of Mozart can be best appreciated for the context of the French Revolution? La Nazi di Figaro. The dates of Mozart are 1756 to 1791. That's correct. The most famous orchestra in Europe, known for its polished performing and the new size becoming the standard for all orchestras, was located in what city? And that's Mannheim. Which period of time does the term classical refer? The ancient Greece and Rome. That is correct. Orpheus and Endurus. That's Gluck. The section in classical concerto which allows the soloist to improvise on themes is the cadenza. Other labels for the classic opera are the Age of Revolution, the Age of Reason. The light opera in Germany that did not use recitative was called Singspiel. In a multi-movement work, contrast is achieved by movement to movement by changing the key meter. This composer established a 4-movement plan for symphonies and string quartets in his numerous pieces that he composed for his patron in Esterhazy, and that is Mozart? No, it's Haydn. Oh. Which group of symphonies by Haydn represent the culmination of his mastery and had the greatest influence on the next generation of symphonic composers in Germany? The London Symphonies. In infant summer, still during the pre-classic era, the ideal of music was to move the listener. This composer demonstrates his new tendency in form, which developed into the Sonata Allegro in his harpsichord, and that would be, it's not Scarlatti, is it? It's C.P.E. Bach. How did Mozart and Haydn create a sense of climax at the end of their symphonies? And this is going to be with a grand finale. Why could Charles Burton declare that music is universal language in the 1760s? Because the style of music was similar, simplified, tonal, and homophonic. Because of the standardization of music, ensembles were standardized throughout the continent. Mozart died due to kidney failure. One of the popular left-hand bass patterns that was invented during the transitional period that became a trademark of the classical style is called Alberti bass. The last piece Mozart was composing at his death was Requiem in D minor. Haydn composed how many symphonies? Over 100. Mozart composed all of his violin concertos within a short span of about 2 years. String quartets dedicated to Haydn, Mozart. The Magic Flute, Mozart. Sonata in D minor, Haydn. Oh, Scarlatti. Sonata in D minor, Scarlatti. La Serva Padrona, that's Pergolesi. This was French word for what was considered chic and modern and sophisticated, and that's gallant. Comic opera in Italy was called comic opera buffet. My bad. What is intermezzo? 2 or 3 comical interludes between the acts of a serious play or opera using a minimum of characters and construction with a purpose to sharply contrast the heavy seriousness of the play. That's intermezzo. Which opera of Mozart includes Sturm and Drang in a scene laying the foundations for German opera for the 19th century? And that's Nazi one. Oh, Don Giovanni. Don Giovanni. Okay, what was the main feature of the opera reform in the 1970s, or 1760s, excuse me, 1970s? Simplifies areas and dramatic continuity. In the early classical period, how is harmony treated? By avoiding charismatic complications and harsh dissonance, bass lines, and simple with straightforward diatonic harmonies. What was the tempo order for the classical symphony string quartet? Allegro, Andante, Minette, Trio, Allegro. Strum and drag is historically significant because it includes the use of sudden shifts in dynamics and keys. It grew in popular expressions of the Romanticism in the 19th century and had an influence on the development of dramatic opera. And Lord Father God, I just pray you help me to study, help the family in this difficult time, and help me to pick up my cross and follow after you in that way, and 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 in that way. All the ways you know the things I need before I ask, and help me to obey you in Jesus' name, amen.